Good morning. So how many of you are here for the very first time? Wow, that's fantastic. Thank you so much for being here today. And now everybody else better raise their hands. How many of you have been here before? You're going to find this is an incredible event this morning, packed full of wonderful information and resources. I'm going to kick it off by sharing a little bit about my story, and then I'll share a little bit about, I think I don't need this one. Then I'll share a little bit about type 1 diabetes, about JDRF and our work to support the community, our advocacy, our education, and our outreach, and I'll explain a little bit about how JDRF maximizes our reach and impact. So in 1991, I met the first person I knew with type 1 diabetes. I knew very little about it. My next door neighbor was this person that I met, and he was 18, 19 years old, and he kind of took it on and managed it all for himself, and I really, had very little to do with it. We started dating, so maybe I learned a little bit more about it. You're not supposed to date your neighbor, but I broke the rules and did that. And as we continued to date over time and start thinking about our future, we talked about maybe, well, what if you ever got married, and would you want to have kids? You're supposed to have those conversations before you get married, and we were. And he said, well, I don't think I want to have my own kids. I don't want to risk passing on type 1 diabetes to them. So my neighbor from 1991 is now my husband of over 20 years. And we obviously went on to have kids. We have 3 sons. They are, and I have to think about this because 2 of them had birthdays this week, 18, 13, and 14. I got the new numbers right. We are, we're travelers. They're active, like Michael and James. Everybody's really busy. One's going off to a soccer tournament as we speak. In September 2007, our conversations from when we were dating kind of became realized, in that our 3-year-old son was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. And that is what connected us to JDRF. We walked for a lot of years, as you already heard, and we got really involved with the local chapter. In 2012, our oldest son was also diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. So our commitment to JDRF and its vision of a world without type 1 diabetes is very deep, and we come by it pretty obviously from what we're living with in our home. There's nothing we wouldn't do to help JDRF realize its vision, and I hope that today you are inspired to also get involved with JDRF. And I'm going to use my notes as we talk today because I just got these slides on Wednesday night, and I just want to make sure I don't miss anything. So as you all know, T1D still remains largely unknown to a lot of people. There's a lot of misunderstandings, even though it impacts about 1 in 400 people around the world. Even those people who are somewhat familiar with the disease don't always realize its full impact on the individual and on the family the way that we do. So, as you know, T1D is a lifelong disease, and it's growing in impact. It's the only autoimmune disease right now that has no disease-altering course of treatment. That means we don't have any medicines that help delay it, or reduce the impact of it, or limit its longevity. And this is in the context of currently 1.25 million Americans with type 1 diabetes, and we're projecting that that number will reach 5 million Americans by 2050. Globally, T1D affects between 19 and 39 million people. That's a lot of people for a disease that still isn't well understood. Of course, many of you probably know how much this disease places a burden not just on the families and on the individuals with the disease, but it certainly places a major burden on the healthcare system and on the resources that many of us have to use to manage and care for our disease. People with T1D need someone advancing research for cures and treatments. They need educational information and support. They need access to good health care, affordability, and choice, right? That's what we all need. They need someone advocating for their needs and driving advances to both cures and treatments that keep them healthy until the cures are found. JDRF is one of those someones that's helping meet those needs, and we partner with many of the leading T1D research and provider organizations throughout the world to help address those needs. JDRF was founded nearly 40 years ago by parents who had children who at the time were just really sick. How many of you are parents of people with T1D? So I think we all owe them some thanks, because now JDRF is an international organization with more than 1 million volunteers. We have chapters across the country, and we have 5 international affiliates. Today, we are the leading organization and the most powerful force and funder in the world driving type 1 diabetes research, seeking both cures for today, or for tomorrow, and treatments for today. The vision is clear. It's a world without type 1 diabetes. But our mission is to improve lives right now, today and tomorrow, by celebrating life-changing breakthroughs to cure, prevent, and treat type 1 diabetes and its complications. I want you to understand, we are not an organization doing research for the sake of research. This is about changing people's lives now and in the future. So I wanted to share something I'm super proud of. Last year, we raised nearly $230 million and deployed over 80% of that towards our research mission. That's a lot of money. One thing that I'm even more proud of is how we leverage that money. For every dollar that we raise, over $2 more is invested in research in the field. That's through our partner organizations, other nonprofits, through the US government, through pharmaceutical companies and device companies. And it's something that we should be really proud of, because last year we, with our combined efforts, added $360 million to the research in this space. I wanted to just share a small list of some of the people we partner with. Later today, you're going to hear from Kelly Close, and she's one of the partners that's listed here through Close Concerns. But this represents most of the major provider organizations and many of the major nonprofits that are also doing research. We are all allies in this fight to cure type 1 diabetes and to provide treatments that are going to make a difference today. So, as I've mentioned, JDRF is all in. We're racing to find cures for tomorrow while striving to improve the lives of people today. I dropped my pen, so hang on. I'm going to keep stepping on it, so I wanted to pick it up. So I want to talk to you a little bit about how we are laser focused on a cure. One of the ways that we drive our cure research is by having an incredible team of experts in-house at JDRF in New York, most of them, who are helping us develop and implement a research strategy. It's a very thoughtful strategy. The team there brings it to the research committee that I'm a part of, and we all work together to make sure that we are focused on the most promising research. And we're very deliberate about how we invest our research dollars. No research goes forward without being thoroughly reviewed and vetted by outside experts and by our staff of experts at JDRF and by the research committee. I can't tell you what a powerful, thoughtful process it is. And as a person who's walked many walks and been at many JDRF events and raised a lot of money, I feel really good knowing that our money is being well spent. The other thing about our team of experts that's really amazing is, I mentioned before, we're not just doing research for the sake of research. All of our research goes through a pipeline the idea is that we're going to do basic science research. We're going to understand this disease at the basic level of the cells and why it happens and start to understand that. Then we're going to translate that into clinical research. And we're going to get those clinical trials out there. People are going to start to learn, start to test out new drugs, devices, et cetera. And then we're going to take those through the FDA. We're going to advance those through approval by the FDA, if we can, or support our partner organizations or researchers in doing so. And then ultimately, when these treatments and cures are adopted, we're going to support both insurance coverage and adoption by physicians and provider organizations. So our team is very thoughtful about this pipeline and about getting research out there so that it can change people's lives. Since JDRF started, we've invested over $2 billion in research. Last year alone, we awarded 150 new grants. Presently, we have over 75 clinical trials. And if you don't know, on the JDRF website, you can go and search a clinical trials database. You can put in variables like age, location, gender, et cetera, and you too can become a part of our clinical trials. That's clinicaltrialconnections.org, I think. But I'm sure the website is on one of the tables out there. I'm sure the listing is out there. And we're funding research in 21 countries around the world. And a reason that's important is because we aren't just confining ourselves to research that's, here in the United States. We're choosing the best that's going to advance the mission, that's going to lead to better treatments and cures. I just want to share a couple of advances that we've experienced since JDRF was founded. I was just talking to Kathy up here, and she told me when she was first diagnosed, she used beef insulin. How many here have used animal insulin? Right, so animal insulin is not known for its predictable nature in terms of how much you had to dose, how long it would stay on board. And in the last 50 years, now we have various kinds of insulin with various durations, and they're a lot more reliable. When pumps were first conceived, they were the size of a backpack. They were huge. I think there was some blue brick. I wasn't around at that point, so I'm not for sure, but I've heard presentations here that have showed pictures of the blue brick in the backpack. Now, of course, we have small tubeless pumps and lots more entering the space. A long time ago, 30 years ago, we couldn't have predicted who would develop type 1. And of course, now we have our TrialNet project that we're partners with. They're going to be here out at the tables today, and I recommend that you stop by. They're able to some extent, to predict people who are at risk for having type 1. And 20 years ago, through our advocacy efforts, we initiated the Special Diabetes Program, and $30 million was allocated by the US government towards type 1 diabetes research in specific. Last year, when this SDP, the Special Diabetes Program, was renewed, it was renewed for $150 million for 2 years. So $300 million versus $30 million at its inception. So we've made a lot of progress, but I think what most of you want to hear a little bit more about is what's happening in the cure space. There are two major areas that are going to lead us to a cure. They are beta cells and immunotherapy. So many of you have probably heard about beta cell replacement, and now JDRF is actually supporting phase 1 and 2 safety and efficacy trials in humans with beta cell replacement through organizations that we've given grants to, including ViaCyte, Beta-O2, and Cerenova. One of our technologies that we promoted the research of spun off and formed a company called Sigilon. Sigilon makes a coating to protect beta cells that would be transplanted or replaced in the body. And they have now partnered with Eli Lilly to work on advancing beta cell replacement with their novel shielding mechanism for the cells. But challenges remain in this space. We still need to determine the right way to protect those cells. We need to develop biomaterials that won't cause a reaction by the body, like a rejection or an attack against the transplanted cells. We need to continue making progress in finding sustainable cell sources. In previous beta cell transplants, they've used cadavers. And unfortunately, anybody who understands organ transplants knows that that's just not enough of a source. There's 1.25 million Americans with type 1 diabetes, and we aren't getting enough donated organs to transplant everybody's cells. So we need to continue to find sustainable cell sources. And we need to work on capitalizing on new fields like gene editing and cell engineering that are going to continue to advance cell replacement. We're super optimistic about this field. Any of you who've been around long enough to know JDRF was involved with the inception of the artificial pancreas. It was a 10-year journey to get that into people's hands. And because of the promise that held for us, we pursued it very vigorously, and we're doing the same in beta cell replacement. But at the same time, we're also working on advancing treatments, cures, that will help use the beta cells that are still existing in people's bodies. We've learned that people with type 1 for as long as 50 years still have functioning beta cells in their bodies. We've learned that through our partners at the Joslin, who've done the 50-year medalist study. We've also learned that women who are pregnant, they can make more beta cells. That's one of the very unique times that the body makes more beta cells. So these discoveries are inspiring researchers to continue to look for ways to stimulate cell growth so that we can maybe grow back our own beta cells, or people with type 1 can grow back their own beta cells, and hopefully that will ultimately lead to a cure. We believe, however, that that's going to need to be in combination with an immunotherapy. That's going to be something that's going to protect those beta cells from being attacked by the body, whether they're replaced beta cells that might get attacked in a rejection situation, or whether they're regenerated beta cells that are grown within your own body. Resetting the immune system is a really big challenge. It's super complicated. I think anybody who's been touched by cancer in their lives understands how complicated the immune system is. But right now, we have several immune therapies that are in clinical trials for T1D. If these therapies are effective, they will be a part of the solution. We believe that immunotherapies and beta cells will go together. And we're really excited to see how much money is going into cancer right now, because one of the lead cancer researchers in the world happens to also be one of the leading T1D researchers in the world. His name's Dr. Jeffrey Bluestone. He's out at UCSF, University of California, San Francisco. And he's even said that cancer immunotherapy advances are going to likely be super relevant in the path towards a cure for T1D. A couple other things in immunotherapy that are really interesting. Right now, through our T1D Fund, which is our venture capital investment fund that JDRF started in 2016, we have a partnership with Prevention Bio. We're driving towards clinical trials of a drug that has shown it can delay the onset of T1D. How many of you would be grateful if you could delay your T1D for even a month? What about years? If you could delay onset of T1D for years and keep someone healthier for longer, I think that would be a win. And that's what the hope is with the Prevention Bio treatment. We're also working with IBM Watson, and I want you to understand, I think we're bringing the best resources possible, the best experts possible in their space to bear on trying to prevent T1D. IBM is known for crunching numbers, and they've taken these data sets that we've been getting for years and years on trying to figure out what the cause of T1D is, and now they're taking them and they're merging them together, and they're crunching the numbers and trying to find answers to what's causing T1D. We also partner with TrialNet that I already mentioned, and I hope you'll stop by their table out in the exhibit space. But while we're committed to a cure, and don't get me wrong, I'm very motivated towards a cure. My specialty in the JDRF Research Committee is in beta cell regeneration. I want stuff that's going to help my kids and family today. I want to have my son go off to college and worry less about the day-to-day management of this disease. I think all of us would like to reduce the burden of the disease and stop thinking about it so much every single day. So JDRF is super committed to things that are going to continue to reduce that burden and help today. You know that we were one of the leaders in helping get the artificial pancreas into the market. There's only one system now, but I think most of you probably know we expect the second system to be on the market fully by this fall. And Tandem Diabetes is here, so I hope you'll visit them in our exhibitor space. We're also continuing to work on faster acting insulins, better infusion sets, and all of that's going to make a difference on the day-to-day disease burden that our loved ones face. One really exciting advance that we're also supporting is called the Open Protocol Initiative. We are big proponents of choice. We believe that choice is your right as a patient with type 1 diabetes, something that you should be deciding with your physician, and that should not be chosen by an insurance company or other limiting factors. So we support the Open Protocol Initiative. What that is about is advancing devices through the FDA that will talk with each other regardless of who their manufacturer is. So imagine you James, you said you wear the Dex 6, right? Yeah. So imagine you have the Dex 6, and then you pick your pump, say it's a Tandem pump, or maybe it's an Omnipod pump from Insulet, or maybe it's one of the other new pumps that's coming into the marketplace. And then you pick your algorithm that talks between them, and you assemble your own artificial pancreas by your choices, by what's going to meet your needs. So the FDA already approved the Dexcom 6 as the first open protocol CGM, and they've approved the Tandem X2 as the first open protocol. It's called an ACE pump that can talk to other devices, and more will follow. There's over 10 devices that are following this pathway through the FDA, and we've been supporting that process. I want to make sure that all of you also know that as much as none of us like to think about complications, I know I don't want to think about my 14-year-old having to deal with lifetime of complications or my 18-year-old. JDRF is really committed to helping minimize complications. We are working on research that helps us identify risk for complications called biomarkers. They're blood measures of potential risk for complications. We're also working on methods to identify potential risk through genes. And we're really pushing, because many of you know that type 2 diabetes and its complications have a lot of research going on. We're really pushing to include people with type 1 in that research because they can benefit from the treatments as well. So we're still continuing to push our complications research agenda, particularly in retinopathy and nephropathy. And if I can say that again in a few minutes, I'll be really pleased, because that's a hard one. I would be remiss if I didn't give a lot of credit to our advocacy team. Research and advocacy, they have to go together. They have to go together because cures and treatments aren't going to get out there to you, to the people you love, without going through the FDA. So we're laying the groundwork at the FDA. We meet with them. We do educational seminars. We're constantly talking with them about the pathway to approval. We also are advocating for government funding, which I mentioned already in the Special Diabetes Program, and there's a breakout session on our advocacy program later today, so you can learn more about that. We definitely are promoting choice and access and affordability. Our new CEO was just at the hearings where he was testifying about the cost of insulin. And it's a huge part of what we stand for, is advocating for people with type 1 diabetes and helping get these treatments and cures out to people faster. So Like I said, we have a breakout session today on advocacy, and I really hope that you'll take a moment to stop by their table as well in the exhibition space. We're all here today because of an amazing JDRF staff team member. Her name is Denise Pentascu. She's the one who organizes this conference every year with a team of volunteers, and I want to just take a moment to thank Denise. She's in the back waving. In addition to this summit, JDRF has programs like our Bag of Hope, our care kits, our toolkits. Denise probably has paired more people with mentors than I can even count. And our community outreach and education programs are a huge part of implementing our mission. I wanted to share a new and growing part of our community outreach effort because I alluded to it before. How many of you are really sensitive to the burden of this disease? And if every hand in the room doesn't go up, I'll be shocked. I mean, this is stressful. We get up in the middle of the night. We worry about kids getting in a car going to a soccer tournament right now without their mother. We worry about our kids going off to college. We worry about our spouses traveling and maybe being in a hotel room without anybody who's there to care for them. The psychosocial, emotional burden of this disease is massive. And JDRF has now moved into offering both psychosocial support and to funding fellows in psychology who are committed to doing research and better understanding the psychosocial, the emotional burdens of this disease so that we can help develop better ways to support you. So that's a huge part of our community outreach effort. It's growing. And I expect to see some videos that are coming out for clinicians later this year. So this is a new area of research and service delivery community outreach for us that I'm really proud of because I think it goes untalked about a lot of times. I mean, we're so busy talking about the numbers, but that's a really big part of this. So I'm really excited to see us advancing that. I'm going to wrap up. I want you to know that you're not alone. There are hundreds of thousands of passionate supporters from all over the world who are giving their time, their energy, and their financial support to JDRF. Through them, JDRF is the leading global funder of T1D research. There are so many ways that you can be one of those passionate volunteers. I really encourage you to visit the exhibit tables. Our walk kickoff is here today at this event. You can get involved with rides, endurance events, galas, other signature events. You can go golfing. You can do anything that suits you to support JDRF. And I hope that as you've heard today about our research mission, our deep commitment to cures for tomorrow and treatments for today, that you will be inspired to get involved. I want to thank you because we could not do what we do, which is driving this critical research to support those who need us most, without you. So thank you so much. You can tell I'm a little bit emotional about this, but I really genuinely thank you.